morning. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Welcome to the REFORMA Virtual Spanish Language Book Bus Summer Series. My name is Cynthia Bautista, and I am the Youth and Family Services Senior Librarian at the Long Beach Public Library. I'm also the Vice President for Los Angeles chapter of REFORMA. This free event is open to librarians, educators, students, and professionals interested in serving Latino and Spanish-speaking communities. In our fourth session of the series, we have Penguin Random House, Grupo Editorial, Lantia Publishing, and Vintage Español, who will be featuring their new adult Spanish language titles.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending where you are. My name is Elisa Garcia. I work for the New York Public Library as a supervising librarian of teen services, specifically at the Bronx Library Center, and I am the vice president of REFORMA Northeast. Our first presenter today is Veronica Cervera from Penguin Random Group, Grupo Editorial. Penguin is a corporate member of REFORMA. For more information about their company and contact information, please visit reforma.org/bookbuzz. And remember to use our hashtag REFORMABookBuzz. Feel free to add your questions to the comment box during the presentation, and they will be answered at the end. As a reminder, these presentations are being recorded for future viewing.
Verónica, estás en mute, no se te oye.
Okay, I got it.
Ahora sí.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Veronica Cervera. I've been with between Santillana and Penguin Random House. I've been around like 25 years with Son of You. Penguin Random House is Grupo Editorial is a division of Penguin Random House. And we have our own office in Miami just for books in Spanish, and our titles are available to all the main distributors. Let me see. Oh. Okay, I'm having troubles. Okay, going down. Okay, we have a lot of film prints. Recently, we acquired Salamandra, the publisher of Harry Potter, Ottolenghi, Diana Gabaldon, and a lot of books that you already know. And on fiction, we have some bestsellers in translation. The first one, The Nickel Boys Doesn't Need a Lot of Presentation, has been the winner of the Pulitzer Prize this year and has been declared Best Book of the Year for a lot of media and also by the New York Public Library. It's a New York Times bestseller, National Book Critics Circle Award finalist, long listed for the Orwell Prize for Political Fiction 2020, and a lot more. And this book, Cousin Whitehead, the author of the #1 bestsellers of the New York Times, The Underground Railroad, dramatized another strand of American history through the story of two boys sentenced to a hellish reform school in Jim Crow era Florida. We're having a lot of demand for his books now, in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement. The next one, Involution, the Evolution by Max Brooks. He's the author of World War Z. I'm sure you remember the movie. Part survival narrative, part bloody horror tale, part scientific journey in the boundaries between true and fiction. This is a Bigfoot story that in a way that only Brooks can tell. Also in translation, we have another two bestsellers, La Ciudad que nos unió, The City We Became, the first book on the trilogy of the great cities trilogies by the 3-time Hugo Award-winning and New York Times bestselling book author N.K. Jemisin, and this book is set in New York City. El Libro de los Anhelos, The Book of Longings, is the new book by the author of The Secret Life of the Bees and the Invention of Wings. This is the story of Anna, a girl that is supposed to marry an older widower that until she meets Jesus. And she met him. They moved to Nazareth with his family, his brothers, Mary, his mother, but she's full of contradictions, and they intensify in the mid of the turbulent resistance to the Rome occupation of Israel that is partially led by her brother Judas. On world literature, I have here 2 of my favorite authors. The first one, the new book by Elena Ferrante, will be published globally on September 1st. And this is our pop day as well. I love the Napolitan series, and I have the privilege of already starting reading this book, and it's a powerful coming of age. Giovanna is a girl of 13 years old, whom one day her father said that she is turning ugly, like her aunt Victoria. She doesn't know Victoria. Is someone like forbidden to mention in her house, and she decides that she wants to meet her, and she starts looking for it. They live in a high middle class neighborhood in Naples, and Victoria lives in a very different part of the city, and she decides to go there and find her. El Enigma de la Habitación 622, I love Joel Dicker too. The Truth About the Harry Keber Affair is one of my favorite books. And this is his most personal book. It's based on a personal experience. He was heartbroken, and at one point, even he's so pretty, and he went to a hotel, and in the same hotel, a murder happened years before. He became involved in the investigation of this murder, and at the same time, he met a beautiful girl that is trying to write a novel. So again, he mixed in this book the writing of books with a mystery drama. We have here Arturo Pérez Reverte, the author of The Queen of the South. For the first time, he writes about one of the most important episodes of the recent history of Spain, the Civil War, in this case, the Battle of Ebro. And I'm sure it will be an amazing book because I remember some historical books by him based on real facts. Even he doesn't use real characters, but he uses the language and he writes in a way that you fall completely into the story. And The Evening and the Morning is one of our main books for this fall, both in English and Spanish. We will publish in Spanish 2 months later. Is the prequel of The Pillars of the Earth, the most famous book by Ken Follett, and it ends just where The Pillars of Earth begins. You always have a lot of requests for romance novel, and here we have 2. We always have a Danielle Steele book in these presentations, and this is a powerful novel about 2 World War II concentration camp survivors. They end up in New York, and then the story develops with the story of 3 generations of the same family, loving people who pay their dues to achieve their goals. Lucinda Riley, this is the first book we bring to the United States by this author, but she is very famous in UK, in Spain, and also in Latin America. This is the story of Electra, a beautiful, rich, and famous girl that seems to have a perfect life, but underneath that perfect life, she hasn't been able to recover from the death of her father. And in the middle of all that, she received a letter from an unknown woman who claims to be her grandmother. We have a new collection that most of the titles in this collection, Mapa de las Lenguas, are published in Alfaguara and Literatura Random House, two of our imprints. I know you're always looking for literature that is written originally in Spanish by Latin American authors. If you need to look for the rest of the title of the series, you look by series on the databases of your distributors on the Mapa de las Lenguas. These two first books of the series are by Argentinian authors. Agustina Basterrica won the Premio Clarín in 2017 with this book, Tender is the Flesh, Cadáver Exquisito, that has been published in English by Scribner this August as well. It's a dystopian book in a world where you cannot eat animals anymore, and humans will divide in between the ones that eat human flesh and the ones that are eaten. Marcos, the main character on this book, is in the business of slaughtering humans. And one day he received a very special specimen, and he doesn't know if he will be able to do what he needs to do with her. La ilusión de los mamíferos is the love story of a male couple that they have their family, their children. They work between the week like any of us, but on Sundays they always meet in this little apartment of Buenos Aires, and they have their little love encounters that will separate them completely of the world during these hours. Also in Mapa de las Lenguas, the winner of the 2017 Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz Prize, Nona Fernandez, is from Chile, one of the most important young authors from there. La Dimension de Conocida is following the thread of a real event of her life during the dictatorship in Chile. Rodrigo Hasbun is from Bolivia. His previous book, Los Affections, was made into a movie and did very well here in the US for libraries and independent bookstores. This is the story of two friends that meet 20 years after something that marked their life forever in Cochabamba. They were part of a high-class friends group in that city, and after that terrible event, they tried to escape. 21 years later, they're in Houston in a bar talking about all these years and all that happened that terrific day, that terrible day. We're republishing some classics because there is a high demand for classics during the pandemic. I have two hardcovers edition here of two classics that I don't need to talk a lot about, The Great Gatsby and Brave New World. Brave New World was having a high demand since 2016. I wonder why, but now has been requested several times, and we have to reprint even our paperback edition. Another two classics, La Peste. This book started moving and circulating a lot at the beginning of the pandemic, and it still is. We have it on audio, we have it on ebook, and now we're printing a new edition of this book that is about a pandemic. And El Señor Presidente will be part of this beautiful collection we have with La Real Academia Española, the Real Academy of the Spanish Language, that are hardcover. And beside the main work, it includes essays and some other works about the novel. Miguel Ángel Asturias is from Guatemala. He won the Nobel Prize And this is one of the main dictator novels in Hispanic literature. Is Side by Side by I the Supreme, The Autumn of the Patriarch, and The Feast of the Goat. We have a lot of books that inspired movies and series. I have to cut on it, and even I have to put the Elena Ferrante one in another part of the presentation. These three are already out on media. The first one, Defending Jacob, inspired an Apple TV series. One of the characters is played by Mary from Downton Abbey. I'm sorry. Andy Barber is an assistant district attorney, and he's very respected and very admired in the courtroom. And one day, there's a murder in his neighborhood, and the main suspect is his son. He can't believe his son did something like that, and he decides that he will be defending Jacob. Unorthodox, I don't think I need to talk a lot about this one either. Has been one of the most watched Netflix series this year, and it's the story of escape of this girl from a very weird community in Williamsburg. And we're republishing the first 5 books on the Outlander series. Here is just the first one, but you will find new editions of the rest. This love travel time story inspired a series in Stars that this may play the 5th season already. And soon to be a series of a movie, we have the best-selling author Lynn Moriarty with 9 Perfect Strangers. This series is for 2021. I'm sure it will be HBO on HBO too. The New York Times Book Review says about this book that if 3 characters were good in Big Little Lies, 9 are even better in 9 Perfect Strangers. And Nicole Kidman will be one of the characters on the new series too. A Gentleman in Moscow. I'm sure you know this one too. Already sold more than 2 million copies in English. And about this book, the Opera magazine says that it's the ultimate read for the quarantine. Dune is a classic, and we're relaunching this book in the fall also in English and Spanish. Too will be one of our main books for the fall. There's a movie coming directed by Denis Villeneuve in December 18. Arthur Clarke said about this series that he doesn't know anything comparable to this book, but with the exception of The Lord of the Rings. So I haven't read it. I have it on my list already, and I hope you will have a lot of requests for these books too. Non-fiction. Our favorite doctor is back, Dr. Juan Rivera. He's from Puerto Rico and he lives here in Miami. He's the Univision medical correspondent. He's big in social media and we really love him. On this book, he will be making recommendations and home remedies that he himself recommends to the 4 generations of women in his family: his mother, his wife, his sister, and his daughter. You remember Santo Remedio is already like a Bible for Hispanics in the US, and I'm sure this book for women will circulate a lot. Books about pandemics, How Contagion Works, by the author of the beautiful novel The Solitude of Prime Numbers, Paolo Giordano. This is a groundbreaking, moving essays on the coronavirus pandemic that was shared over 4 million times in Italy and has been published in 25 countries. It's a little essays that is both timely and timeless, and is accessible, a deeply felt meditation on what it means to confront this pandemic on both sides as individuals and as a community. David Quammen, the author of Contagio, Spillover, always saw that the next disease cataclysm will be something big like AIDS or the 1918 influenza. He went to the jungles of Central Africa, to the rooftop of Bangladesh, and the cave in China to investigate. And on these essays, on Spillover, it's incredible. You can read it like a mystery tale. On U.S. history and social issues, we have the new book by Jorge Castañeda. He's a very respected politician and intellectual from Mexico. This book was originally written for the American public and offers an X-ray vision of our history and our society in both luminous and problematic point of view. Like, we're the biggest countries on earth, our democracy is supposed to be the best, and we have a good self-critical humor, innovative genius, but at the same time we have problems with immigration, drug policies, racism, religions, and you will find all this here. Yo y la Supremacía Blanca, Me and the White Supremacy, has been one of the main books to fight racism in this country in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement. This book came from social media, from an Instagram account that captivated participants worldwide. It takes readers on a 28-day journey to complete with journal prompts to do the necessary and vital work that can lead off to improve race relations. How to Get Out of the Losers Club by Regina Carro. Regina is one of the most important influencers from Mexico at the moment in how to get out of the failures club, of the losers club, She will impart her personal and professional experiences to lead us on a journey to discover our fighting spirit. Like the coach she is, she trained us to overcome hard times, to keep dreaming, fighting, and winning. We all know Deepak Chopra. This is his new book, Metahuman. He asks us if it is possible to venture beyond daily living and experience heightened states of awareness. Drawing the latest research on neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and biometrics, Chopra offers a practical 31-day guide to help us wake up at the deepest level in order to liberate ourselves. And here, two memoirs by two American agents, two bestsellers of the New York Times, The Year of the Monkey, by Patti Smith and White Blanco, the memoirs of the creator of American Psycho. And our last two books on these presentations are cookbooks. We all have been cooking a lot. I'm sure I've been cooking more than you, but now people are thinking about eating healthier. This book will help you to do so. The first one is by the best foodie of 2018 in Spain, Chef Busquet. It has 70 fast and easy healthy recipes with full color pictures of them that you will love. And he used a lot of ingredients that we use here in the US, like and a lot of no sugar recipes, gluten-free and stuff like that. And fermentation, the author is also from Spain. She's the greatest authority in this culinary technique there. A lot of people are planting at home, are raising birds at home and moving to the suburbs on these times. And with fermentation, you will learn how to preserve a lot of vegetables using this method. That's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Veronica. I don't see any questions on the chat, but if we get any questions later, we'll let you know. Now our next presenter is Enrique Perillo from Lantia Publishing. Lantia is a corporate member of Reforma. For more information about their company and contact information, please visit reforma.org/bookbuzz. And remember to use our hashtag ReformaBookBuzz. Feel free to add your questions to the comment box during the presentation, and they will be answered at the end. As a reminder, these presentations are being recorded for future viewing.
Okay. Let me go in full screen. I see. Okay. Great. Give me 1 second. Okay. Hello, my name is Enrique Perillo. I'm the CEO of Lantia Publishing, and today is my great privilege to be here with you to share this virtual book buzz with all of you. Many of you already know us. We are based out of Spain. We have been members of Reforma for the last 3 years, and we're super excited to be able to contribute to this event. We're only 5 years old, but in our short history, we managed to keep a spirit of constant innovation that has consistently surprised the publishing industry with new and fresh ideas. A couple of years ago, I think it was actually just last year, January last year, I had the opportunity to talk to some of you about Guantanamera, our imprint focused solely on Cuban authors, and showcase them for the first time in the international markets. And just about Christmas time, there was a video newscast showcasing our Dragona, a machine that can fit in any bookstore or library, making high quality books on the fly. And this went viral over several social networks. We are proud to support the Hispanic community in the US and bring hundreds of high quality titles to bookstores and libraries alike. Just in the last 2 years, our books received a grand total of 33 medals at the International Latino Book Awards. Today, however, I'm going to talk to you only about 4 titles that I consider extraordinary and that we believe will be highly appreciated by your readers. 3 of them form part of the same collection, Senda Aventuras. And I'm going to introduce that collection first because I think that you will hear a lot about it. About a year ago, we partnered with best-selling author, Veronica was just talking about him, Arturo Pérez Reverte, to create this imprint after he became the most widely read living Spanish author, selling tens of millions of copies across Spain and South America, and having 10 novels made into movies. Starring Johnny Depp, Viggo Mortensen, lots of other people. Pérez Reverte wanted to start a new project. He wanted to create a publishing house to bring titles that were no longer considered commercial, but that he thought should be essential required reading for those looking to develop a love for reading. He specifically chose titles that, by his own words, define him as the man that he is today, and that made him become a writer and an international correspondent. Senda Aventuras is a literary collection born with a passion for classical adventures, a passion for finding the titles that help us dream of new lands, understand the glory of victory and the agony of defeat, and meet the heroes and villains that helped us orient our moral compass as we grew up. We chose not to focus on the most widely known titles, but instead find hidden gems that had gone unnoticed. And once we found them, we went to great lengths to create absolutely exceptional editions while keeping their costs affordable and available to everyone. Each title of the collection is preceded by a foreword from Arturo Pérez Reverte himself, in which he explains the relevancy of the title, why the book is special, and what are the major lessons that can be drawn from it. Each book cover features a custom painting by Augusto Ferrer Dalmau. Augusto is one of the most famous Spanish contemporary painters and a master of hyperrealism. He's best known for his action masterpieces depicting classical battles and military scenes. The collection was launched to much fanfare and heavy promotion that included printed press, radio, TV, social media, appearances with the help of other best-selling authors, such as all the guys here, Gómez Jurado, Espido Freire, Lorenzo Silva. Just Arturo himself has over 2 million Twitter followers in Spain and the Americas, which has helped generate awareness across both sides of the Atlantic. The first title of the collection became Spain's best-selling classical book upon launch and has become a slow burner success and an instant classic. Just last week, El Diamante de Moonfleet won the first book of the collection, won the International Latino Book Award to the best English to Spanish translation. And I should add that the translator was Dolores Payá. The novel has been praised by Joseph Conrad himself for the brilliant character development. It sparked an entire new literary genre of treasure islands and secret maps. And almost 100 years later, George Remy, better known as Hergé, the creator of the comic adventures of Tintin, will confess that both Captain Haddock and Tintin himself were inspired by the characters of Moonfleet. John Trencher, a young man thirsty for adventures, and Elsevier, the old sailor smuggler, always looking for a good bottle of rum. No feature of a good book adventure is left out. Themes that have lasted well into our century, movies like The Goonies, secret maps, written clues in medallions worn by skeletons, a hidden treasure, romance, revenge, escape, and the sea as a deceptive landscape that holds the entire story together with the great melody that classical literature brings. You can see that this book has a 4.6 rating in Amazon. We think that the story, we may think that we're reading a story about just the John Trencher and Elsevier, the old sailor, but in reality, we think that John Faulkner wrote a story about the thrill for adventure present in each one of us. Moonfleet's success was followed by the next book I bring you today, The Prisoner of Zenda. The Prisoner of Zenda, of course, is the first novel where our heroes have their adventures in an imaginary country, effectively creating a new genre that span novels, costume dramas, operettas, stage musicals, films. Peter Ustinov, the Marx Brothers, and Hathaway are just a few of those who at some point have crossed the border into such territories as Samavia, Merville, Krasnia, Fredonia, or Concordia. If you like Wakanda, you will love Ruritania. As you know, the book starts during the coronation, which under the customs of the country cannot be stopped. And when the king is drugged by his half-brother, an Englishman that bears an uncanny resemblance to the king is recruited by loyal men to impersonate him at the coronation, foiling a possible coup. His role play goes well until the real king is abducted and the protagonist finds himself trapped in his part. Worse, he falls in love with Princess Flavia, the king's intended. This novel has influenced countless modern stories, and your readers will enjoy discovering each hidden reference in books and movies they already know. For our next book, El Misterio del Agua Azul, Borges, Augusto Ferrer Dalmau searched inspiration for the cover in the 1939 film of the same title, starring Gary Cooper, and I think the resemblance is uncanny. El Misterio del Agua Azul follows the adventures of three brothers enlisted in the French Foreign Legion. They fall under the rule of a tyrannical sergeant that separates them and tries to break their spirit, aware of a dark family secret concerning a fabulous blue sapphire, the blue water, carried by one of them. As tensions rise, the fort in which they're stationed falls under attack, and all rivalries must be set aside in a desperate battle for survival. Loyalty, bravery, and honor are the main themes of this adventure. Finally, we have a real life adventure. Most of us read John le Carré books, watch James Bond movies, or binge watch during the lockdown the entire 9 seasons of 24. Jaime Rocha, the author of this last book that I will present to you today, finds them amusing, but for all the wrong reasons. Jaime was a Royal Marine in 1978 in the Royal Spanish Royal Army. He was profiled by the Spanish intelligence services and recruited to form part of one of the most secretive agencies in the world. Spain sits in a strategic position as the first port of entry from Africa and keeps an extraordinary amount of intelligence on the threat matrices from Africa and the entire Mediterranean. It also regularly collaborates with agencies such as the Mossad and the CIA and played a key role during the Cold War years. It was precisely the CIA who asked the Spanish Secret Service for help locating Muammar Gaddafi's residence in 1986. In a time before drones, before satellite images, and before cell phone cameras, the only way to acquire intelligence was with human eyes. The Western world was just reeling in from a series of multiple attacks promoted by Libya, starting with the 1983 bombing of a marine compound in Beirut that left 241 people dead, and followed by additional bombings in Madrid and Berlin. The US decided to retaliate, but no NATO country militarily supported the operation. Given the scarce available intelligence that the CIA had in the region, they requested the Spanish intelligence services to send an agent who will eventually become the only set of boots in the ground. This is his story. All of our books can be ordered from our partner Lectorum, and we are always happy to work on special deals or special needs. I'm available for any questions you may have. If you have any questions, I will take them. If not, thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm looking at the chat right now and there are no questions. Sorry, I muted myself. If anybody has any questions while you're while watching the presentation that you think of for Enrique, please write it in the chat and we will let him know. So thank you again, Enrique.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So our third presenters are Alexandra Torrealba and Cristobal Pera from Vintage Español. For more information about their company and contact information, please visit reforma.org. Book Buzz. And remember to use our hashtag Reforma Book Buzz. Feel free to add your questions to the comment box during the presentation and they will be answered at the end.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cristobal Pera. I'm the publishing director of Vintage Español at Penguin Random House US out in New York. And Alexandra Torrealba is our editor. And we are very proud to bring to you a few titles from our fall list. And I also would mention that I hope next time we can meet again in our house in Broadway, and as we always do, and we are going to miss you all until we do that. But we have 20 titles overall in the fall, and we are going to highlight at least 6 of them. And I will introduce the first 3 ones, and Alexandra the next. But this fall, we have literary fiction like the new Julia Alvarez book, Más Allá, Afterlife. We have the new novel by Carolina de Robertis, Cantoras, that will also be showcased later on. And a book by, the new book by Coelho, Paulo Coelho, El Arquero. And in nonfiction, we have books that I'm going to present to you, Latinx by Paola Ramos, El Precio del Racismo by Eduardo Porter, or Cómo Ser Antirracista, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Kendi. And even a book that we'll not present today, like Decoding Despacito by Leila Cobo, a book about Latin music in the US. And also we'll have young adult books like Me Dicen Güero from David Bowles, Campeones de Fútbol Mundial, or the trilogy Memorias de Idún. But let's go directly with the first book, Latinx, En busca de las voces que redefinen la identidad latina by Paola Ramos. Paola Ramos is a young and brave journalist. She works for Vice News and Telemundo. And she decided to bring to life the controversial term Latinx. What means Latinx? And there have been studies, academic studies, and many articles. But since she's a journalist, she decided to take a journey in the US and interview and hear the voices of what she thinks is Latinx, the inclusive term that brings together Afro-Latinos, trans-Latinos, border town Latinos, and she brings all these voices in this, of this growing movement and community that has been underrepresented until now. And that's why this book has also a special appeal for these upcoming elections. The book is going to be out in October, and Paola Ramos is also, it's just an anecdote, but she is the daughter of Jorge Ramos, and this is a journey of self-discovery that will shed light on the voices of this new generation and on herself, because she comes out in this book also. This is the first book I wanted to highlight, and it's gonna be a very important book that shows also, and like in the rest of the books of Inter Español, our commitment with the audience, with the Latino audience and readers here in the US. The next one is Cómo ser antirracista, that you all know, a book that has been crucial in our present conversation, groundbreaking approach to understanding and uprooting racism in our society. And the concept of anti-racism that Kendi brought in his book. Professor Kendi, he's a scholar, has been revolutionary. The other day I saw the conversation that Oprah Winfrey had with him and other in an audience, and it was really amazing to see how people, when they read this book, change their opinion and their assumptions about what is to be, yes, to say, oh, I'm not a racist, to be actively an anti-racist. And he weaves this discourse through history, science, and it's an amazing read that will definitely have many readers waiting to see the Spanish edition, both in libraries, in academia, and of course, regular readers. So this is the second book that I wanted to showcase, and the third one, and this has been planned all along. I mean, it is impossible to think that we have brought this books in the last 2 months, as you know how it works in the publishing company. It just shows you how is our commitment with this. And in this case, it is the Spanish version of Eduardo Porter's American Poison that was published by Knopf in March. La hostilidad racial, el precio del racismo, la hostilidad racial y la fractura del sueño americano. A complementary book from the last one, and where he shows how, compared with other industrialized nations, the US is losing ground in almost every indicator of social health. And according to Porter, the race is the problem, how racial animus has been at the core of the problem from the beginning. But he is also optimist, and he shows the hope and the way to get out of this problem. And this is the last one I have, and Alexandra is going to present to you the next 3 books.
Thank you so much, Cristobal, and thank you for the introduction. As Cristobal said, my name is Alexandra Torrealba. I work as an editor at Vintage Español. I am excited to present to you 3 fiction titles that are true highlights of our fall season this year. The first one is Cantoras by Carolina de Roberti that Cristobal prefaced before. You may have already heard about this wonderful novel that published in English by Knopf last fall. It tells the story of 5 wildly different women who, in the midst of the Uruguayan dictatorship of the 70s, find one another as lovers, as friends, and ultimately as family. In this environment in Uruguay, where the everyday rights of people are under attack, homosexuality is a very dangerous transgression to be punished. And yet these 5 friends, 5 cantoras, who in Spanish means women who sing, somehow miraculously find one another. And together they discover an isolated, nearly uninhabited cape in Uruguay called Cabo Polonio, which they claim as their secret sanctuary. And over the next 35 years, their lives move back and forth between Cabo Polonio and Montevideo, the city they call home. And as they return, sometimes together, sometimes in pairs with lovers in tow or alone. And throughout, again and again, the women are tested by their families, by their very own lovers, by their society, and by one another as well, as they fight to live what ultimately are their most authentic lives. This is truly a genre-defining novel. It's lauded as the author's true masterpiece, and it's largely biographical too. And its geographic location is, of course, of obvious huge appeal to Spanish-speaking readers here in the United States. Next up, I'd like to introduce to you, as Cristobal said, one of our stars for the fall. It's one of our most awaited publications in fiction, the new novel by none other than Julia Alvarez. Más Allá is her first novel in almost 15 years. It tells the story of an immigrant writer named Antonia Vega, who just retired from the college where she taught English, and where her husband Sam suddenly dies. But that's not all. Her big-hearted and unstable sister disappears. And also Antonia returns home one evening to find a pregnant, undocumented teenager on her doorstep. While Antonia has always sought direction and comfort in the literature that she loves, she realizes and now finds that the world needs more of her than just her words. The reviews for this book, which published in English, as I said, under the title Afterlife, have been absolutely spectacular. It published a couple of months ago and has been described as a stunning work of art, a gorgeously intimate portrait, and a charming novel of immigration, loss, and love. And once again, Alvarez has confirmed that she is a force to be reckoned with. Finally, I will leave you with Me Dicen Güero by David Bowles. I want to mention that David Bowles is becoming one of our one of the authors that we're truly committed to. We have published some of his books before, and I will preface that we are publishing a graphic novel by him as well next year, which will be very exciting, especially for libraries, I hope. But today I'm going to talk to you about Me Dicen Güero. This is a timely, heartfelt collection of poetry written from the viewpoint of a young boy who grows up in the border. In Spanish, as you may know, especially in Mexico, the word güero is a nickname for guys that have pale skin, whether they are Latino or Anglo. And that's exactly what Güero, our protagonist, looks like. But, you know, make no mistake, he's, as he says, puro Mexicano, and he lives seamlessly between two worlds and also on both sides of the river. His life is very tough, but he finds in poetry the most intimate form of release, and writing it is what ultimately allows him to cope with being a misfit. This book is a true multicultural gem, I would say. Since its publication in English, it has received numerous prizes, including the Pura Belpré Honor Book Award. But perhaps what's most compelling about this book is that it makes poetry truly relevant and approachable for young readers. And with that, that's our wrap for us. Thank you so much for listening and being here. We're so thrilled to see you again, even if it's just only on screen. And I will second Cristobal's wish of hopefully seeing you again in person at 1745 Broadway very soon.
Okay, so thank you, Cristobal. Thank you, Alexandra. So we actually have time for some questions, and there's a question in the chat that's for all of the presenters. So one of the question is, do any of the presenters have any recommendation for recently released or upcoming citizenship and tenant rights books?
I can probably say for Vintage Español, this is something that we're truly looking into. I know, and we know, and we've heard that it's truly a need to have these books in the market, and for libraries as well. So I can say that it's something that is in the works for us right now. And we're looking forward to bring a publication, especially about citizenship and the process of becoming a citizen here in the US very soon, hopefully.
Okay, great. So there's another question in the chat. ¿Qué me dicen, Güero title be considered for young, can it be considered for young adult readers?
Yes, absolutely. It's middle grade and young adult, we would say. And it's absolutely fantastic. And I think the fact that it's it's mostly poetry. Actually, it's all poetry. Makes it a truly, truly special read for young audiences.
Yeah, in this case, I would really say that Me Dicen Güero is a book for all ages because since, as Alexandra mentioned, it's poetry and it's the point of view of a kid living in the border, and it's really, really moving for anybody, and that's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and I think we had another question in the chat. Sorry, using it right now. Any recommendations for African-American literature in Spanish?
I have one. I didn't present it today, but it was one of our best titles last year. It's from a Cuban author, and it's actually it's the perspective of an African in Cuba. It's called La Soledad del Tiempo, and it's a really good book because it talks about racism in Cuba, where you think that maybe it wouldn't be so accentuated, but it is. And it's a story of two writers. One is white, one is black, and the rivalry to become the best writers in Cuba, and how race plays a part on their way to success. La Soledad del Tiempo from Alberto Guerra in Guantanamera Publishing House.
And we have the Spanish versions of Toni Morrison books, Colson Whitehead, and also Chimamanda. Even for Chimamanda, we have a new book, which is a version for children of we all, I don't remember the title in English. We all have to be feminists. Todos deberíamos ser feministas.
And I will add from Vintage Español, as we just presented today, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. And then also another book, if we're talking specifically about African-American literature and not Afro-Latino, last year we published Prohibido Nacer by Trevor Noah, which is a very heartfelt memoir that I strongly recommend. It's in English, it's Born a Crime, and in Spanish, it's Prohibido Nacer.
Yeah, also in our presentation is Me and the White Supremacy.
All right, and the last question, are all these titles available in digital format?
Yes, for Vintage Español.
Yeah.
Yes, and for Lantia, they're all available through Overdrive for all the library programs.
Great, thank you.
No, please feel free to reach us if you need a list on any subject at any time.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the presenters from Penguin Random House at Grupo Editorial, Lantia Publishing, and Vintage Español. This was the fourth event of the REFORMA Virtual Spanish Language Bookbus Summer Series, featuring 16 distributors and publishers. We have 2 more sessions scheduled. You can visit reforma.org/bookbus to register for future events.
Thank you so much for organizing this.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.